I paid it straight into Stevie Nicks' bank account. Mascis was here, so Jono and I went to the sound check. Just us and him at sound check for 2 hours. It all starts with John for me. Like, every one of Jono's pedals has been on a Gangs record. I've had my life impacted by pedals. Like, I couldn't walk for 2 years, right? I created my own world. I got to work with Kimgordon. If we boil it down, it's like the link, the access to all these worlds are guitar pedals.
Hey, welcome. I'm Timothy, your technically minded pedal nerd, and I recently hung out with Malani, former lead guitarist and founding member of the band Gang of Youths. We spent the afternoon hanging out and playing our way through a pedal board full of chasebliss effects. And as we chatted, it became obvious that he had a bigger story to tell about how pedals have influenced and shaped his life. So as soon as we wrapped on the pedal hang, we immediately sat down and filmed a second video. And look, I'm no journalist, so I don't know if it qualifies as an interview, but he has one heck of a story to tell about, the theft of his prized pedal, buying some weird instrument off Fleetwood Mac, and gifting pedals to some truly famous musicians. So, did he ever get the stolen pedal back? Which pedals did he gift, and to whom? Let's find out and just dive right in. And joining me again is Malani. Thanks for being here.
Not a problem. Thanks.
I don't know if you saw this video first or the other video first, but we just finished talking about Chachi's favorite pedals, and it turns out that you've got a story that you're keen to tell about how getting into guitar pedals and especially getting into the guitar pedal community has really shaped your path, you feel. And you told me that this informs some of your business decisions and everything. So I don't know where you want to start.
Let's start from the end.
From the end, all right.
And then just let's take a lost approach and just jump different parts of the net. No, I'm totally kidding. We'll start from the beginning.
We'll just have to keep you angled
easy.
that way for the camera.
No problem.
Yeah.
Happy to start from the beginning, I guess. I grew up in a setting where effects pedals and guitar was equally as attractive,
Okay, yeah.
I was never exposed to guitars without effects pedals, being accompanied with it.
Yeah.
Growing up in a big church where there was a lot of infrastructure and professionalism. I think they called it excellence.
Okay, so most people there had pedal boards.
Yeah. I was more familiar with different kinds of pedals before I knew different types of guitars.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. I only knew the type of guitars that were played at church, which was a Telecaster. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Strats weren't a thing. I didn't remember anyone owning a Strat.
Yeah, Strats kind of come in and out, hey?
Yeah.
They were really in when I started playing in the mid-90s. And then they kind of went away.
Yeah.
And then they have these resurgences.
Mm. Yeah, and it's funny that period in which they went away, that period in the 90s, that's my favorite era of Strats.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And generally Fenders, a lot of the Fenders I gravitate towards are early 90s to about 97.
Okay, yeah.
98. I remember meeting an old Fender rep in America, and he told me that you probably like them because they were made to kind of compete with all the punk guitars that, or everyone was into humbuckers and grunge and punk, and Tellys and Strats were kind of on the off. So
yeah,
everything was made to be indestructible in the 90s.
Yeah, okay.
And that's probably why I gravitate towards that era.
Yeah.
But anyway, in church I remember Les Pauls, Telecasters, and big bodied Gretches.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And outside of that, I just remember probably the first thing I remember is a Telly. Telly's the first guitar I ever got. It's the green one we use.
It's Frankie.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Frankie's had a few different paint jobs, and oh my god, that until 2 months ago had a B&G bender on it, and I've done everything to that guitar. It's had 4 different necks. So I just remember Telecasters, and before really knowing anything else, it was you knew the Tube Screamer, you knew the DL4.
Yeah, did you have musical heroes in your formative era that you kind of obsessed over their pedals, or you learned about their pedals while you were like chasing a certain sound, or were you more informed by the pedals that you saw in the church environment?
Definitely in the church environment. I mean, at that time, there was not a level of detail to like pedals and boards that I'd seen outside of the church, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there was this guy who was like massive influence on me, Guy Chislett, and like he's very big in the Christian world, and he's a big part of like, even like I've toured all over the world, and you can just tell when someone's been influenced by someone like Chislett based on what pedals are on their board.
Yeah.
So I'd always ask, I'd be at a festival, I'm like, did you grow up in church? And how'd you know? I'm like, the Strymons were a giveaway, but, you know, like everything else, how it was layered, and, you know, I really feel like he was one of the first people to really promote, like, Gretsch. Gretsch was seen as, like, a rockabilly or,
Yeah.
you know, country guitar.
Yeah, like Chet Atkins, Brian Setzer, that sort of thing.
Well, then you had, like, was it Billy Duffy using it in the Cult, and, you know, I guess more relatable to Australia, had like the Living End guy.
Yeah.
Can't really remember his name, but yeah, outside of that, you know, like using the Gretsch in other applications was just kind of foreign, and I really feel like Chislett and a lot of people in that space kind of opened the doors.
Sure.
Gretsch apparently is like one of the highest selling things at Fender because of that market, and he's a big part of it. I'm very lucky to like know him now, and
Is he Australian?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
he was in America for a long time. He was in a big like Fall Out Boy adjacent band called the Academy Is.
Oh, okay. I know of Fall Out Boy, but I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, and so he has a signature Falcon, white Falcon,
Yeah, wow.
that he gifted me. Well, I swapped him with another guitar, but honestly, the Falcon was, to me, much better.
Yeah.
And now I've got like a B bender on it. Like
Yeah.
I've put a Bigsby B bender on it.
Oh man, yeah. TikTok has me convinced that I need one of those benders on my Telecaster. They're so cool.
They're a lot of work, man, but I've taken them all off except for the Falcon.
Yeah.
But Chislett was a big influence, and there's this other guy, Joel Hingston, who now plays guitar in my band.
Okay. Did you come up in the same church, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And he first lent me his pedal boards. The first pedals I ever used were his.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, I was like 13 at the time. And so it's a really cool full circle moment to like live near these guys now. Like all of us have kind of done different things and come back to the same area we grew up in, and we all influence and interact with each other in a different way. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool, you know.
And this is now outside of the church?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so you mentioned Gretsch and everything, and you mentioned Strymon. So what else kind of led you forward from that point in your life? Like which brands were you, or like tones were you chasing? And how did that lead you to the next stage, which I'm guessing might be Gang of Youths, but there could be something in between there?
Yeah, well, like, I grew up wanting to be a rugby player, and I had this knee surgery, which meant I couldn't walk at all for a year, walk properly for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And in that period, I found music. I discovered Pink Floyd, you know. I discovered, like, Tom Waits. I discovered
Right.
Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I discovered, like, Sonicyouth and stuff.
Is this just you digging on the internet, or like how are you?
I had friends that, you know, were hanging out with me, 'cause, you know, I couldn't do anything else, and
Yeah.
introducing me to a lot of this stuff. Pink Floyd, I felt like, was like a self-discovery, but I mean, they're not exactly a hidden gem.
Not hard to find. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and being exposed to all this stuff and wanting to kind of take, because at that time I'm like isolated as well, so I couldn't go to church and all that.
Right.
And so I took that exposure that I had before that,
Yeah.
and then I've kind of formed this other, you know, unchurched kind of exposure to music.
Right. So that injury, as much as that would really suck, it kind of changed your path, right? Like, it introduced you to stuff that you weren't going to find. Like, I can't remember which one is non-religious. Secular is non-religious? Is that
Yes,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, like, that introduction and kind of deep dive into secular music, like, changed you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And finding fuzz,
Yeah.
you know, like being like, whoa, like a fuzz just doesn't work in the church context, but being outside of that context for that period, it's like I'm exposed to all these other wacky effects like the fuzz factory and, you know, like I began to become really curious with these alternative stuff. So when I came back from my injury and I wanted to like get involved in playing in the youth band anymore, I really struggled to fit in, and I'd constantly be told, you know, what you're doing is not working for our context, because I discovered all these, you know, other sounds and
Yeah, and you're trying to integrate that back in, and they're like, it doesn't fit the mold.
yeah. And so, you know, my old band, most of us met at youth group.
Right.
We
This is
formed
Gang of Youths. Yeah. Okay.
we formed our own thing, and I felt like I had a home to place all these ideas, which, you know, like I remember a lot of other people growing up in the same setting, and they would venture out, they'd get a whammy or something,
Yeah.
and they'd always be told, look, we don't do that here. And that's not to disrespect that world, it's just like, you know, it works, and it obviously has mass appeal.
Yeah, they have like genre limitations essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So some bits of the sonic palette are just not going to fit.
Absolutely. And I knew I wasn't crazy with my ideas. I just realized it didn't work in that setting.
Yeah.
And some people, I feel like they stay in whatever setting it is, and they try to explore all these ideas. Like I remember being in having a metal band around 17, and having a friend who was like classically trained, trying to like implement, you know, like certain aspects that I was just like, no, that's not going to work. And also having perfect pitch doesn't work in metal.
Yeah.
You know, in
Yeah.
that, well, at least didn't for us. But yeah, so finding something like Gangs was like a home for all these sounds, where for the time I was in the group, like I had full reign to explore like a lot of, yeah, the sounds that I wanted to explore.
And that's great. So like your interaction with pedals from that point would have expanded now because you have like carte blanche to just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right. So did you start collecting? Is that when the collecting really began?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to say it was like the money came first, then the pedals, but I was pretty obsessive. Like I would starve and work whatever it is, like do whatever favors. You know, I wasn't allowed a job in high school, but like I'd find ways of making money, legal ways. And as soon as I finished school, like my first factory job, I remember like the first few pedals that I bought with my own money. So, you know, before that I'm borrowing pedals.
Right. Yeah.
But when I'm able to buy pedals, I can't even remember what my first pedal I bought was like a Carl Martin Red Repeat,
Okay. Yeah.
which was a really cool, it's like a analog voice digital pedal. Really simple, but sounded great.
Is that like a nod to the early Boss delays? Do you reckon?
Maybe, I don't know. It was like very odd shaped. It's
Okay.
like looked almost like a love heart. It's like red.
See if I can dig up a picture and throw
Yeah,
it on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
background. Yeah.
But it sounded really, really great. But yeah, after that, when I was working this factory job, I remember buying like being into the Strokes, and so like visual sound, the Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know if you remember that. I think it's a
No.
Nashville-based company.
Okay.
But I remember just being like overwhelmed with how much information was out there. And I remember just thinking like, I want to get the best overdrive. I remember Googling best overdrive, and we all know what comes up.
Yeah. You ask 100 guitarists and you get like 1,000 opinions.
Yeah.
And just too many options. Yeah.
The main thing that I kept seeing was like the Klon Centaur. I saw how much it costs. At this point, I'm really into Wilco. You know, I'm really into Bill Frisell.
Yeah.
And all those, you know, Nels Cline and Bill like going on and on about the Klon.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I have to have one.
And that's what kicked off my obsession with the Klon as well, because I saw Wilco play a few times, and I started like deep diving on his board.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a Tumnus, which is like a great recreation of it, and it's quite good. And I chose that after a long shootout, but the inflated prices are just too much. Please don't tell me you have a real Klon center.
I bought a real Klon. I worked 2 whole weeks and I ate like noodles and lettuce for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I paid $1,300 on eBay for a gold
that's
Klon.
a steal by today's.
Yeah.
But what year are we talking here? Just
2011, 2010.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
You got a deal.
Yeah. And it's funny, that Klon's been through a million things. I had it stolen from me for a while, then got donated to a charity in LA by the person who stole it. He donated all this gear that he stole. I won't go into that's another whole story. If anyone's watching this, I think it's kind of a famous gear situation that happened.
It's hard to move stolen gear. People find out. So
Yeah.
that's
he had hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of stolen gear. So
oh wow.
I had to reach out to this charity and go through like 8 months of proving it was my Klon.
Yeah.
And I got it back. And yeah, it's like a miracle. It now just sits in a cabinet.
Yeah.
I have a security camera that watches
For
it.
real, I was about to make like a laser security system joke, but like you for real.
No, I do. I just bought like $120 like web.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and it gives me alerts anytime someone comes near that room. Or
That's good.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm never letting you out of my sight again.
Definitely not.
All right, so you started. You mentioned like starving essentially to start collecting, like before the money came with gangs. But then once you had some success with the band, you would have started spending more and more on gear, right? So has that just been like a linear process for you, and you've kept what you've had, or has the collection kind of gone up and down over the years?
Definitely gone up and down.
Yeah.
I, for a long time, kept some really nice gear. And I think I mentioned, if anyone watched the previous video, I went on like a fuzz spree at one point.
Yeah.
Buying Octavias and having purchased like 12 different Foxstones. And just being, just really curious. I remember there's just like some great pedals that I really bonded with that I had for a long time that seemed to like not really appear online as much as I thought. Like,
What's an example of that?
there was this company called Lone Wolf Audio, I think, and they made this delay and reverb called the Xenomorph.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's just very weird, but like also simple and lush. And I remember my tech taking it apart and being like, oh, it's not that great. Oh, but it sounds really good. I had that for quite a few years. I've had some weird ones. There was like this company that made this triangle, like Fuzz Factory style pedal that sticks to your guitar.
Oh, weird.
So you
really?
can like turn the stab knob
while
and everything.
you're playing. Yeah.
I just tried everything, man. Bought the Gizmotron. Remember that thing? It's like on the guitar and you play it and it's got like a spinning wheel for each string.
Oh yeah, I've seen videos of that, but I didn't remember that's what it's called.
Still got another, like, I'm just try stuff, man. Like, bought a lot of stuff, building stuff into guitars.
And I think that's like many of us, like pedal enthusiasts, you kind of have to, like, you can't keep everything that you buy. Well, most people anyway, right? Because there's just disappointment when you get it and it's not what you thought it was going to be, right? And so you like flip it as quickly as you can to like help put money into the next thing. And you also go through phases with pedals as well, right? So I wish I had kept, like, I think everybody has a list in their head, like, oh, I wish I hadn't let go of whatever. How I justify the money I've spent on pedals is like, well, I want to get like the best thing. Like, instead of getting something and trading up, I'll just get the expensive one because I know it does everything.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, we're really good at justifying our purchases, all of us pedal nerds, absolutely. So you mentioned to me how you've built like relationships with people by reaching out to people about pedals, and I definitely want to hear the story about you and John from bondieffects. But you mentioned reaching out to someone, I think it was from Gaslight Anthem, maybe through John, like how that led to a kind of a chain reaction of
Oh
things.
no,
right?
so that
Or am I getting that wrong?
yeah, Ian's a friend who I made through someone else in music.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, it all starts with John for me. Like, we went to junior high and the start of high school together, and then he moved back to Kentucky,
Right.
and we didn't hear from each other for years until I was in America recording the first Gangs album. We'd relocated to Nashville,
Okay. Yeah.
and he had put up the first Bondi Effects Sickas demo. And I remember just saying Sickas, like, oh, it's very Australian.
So it's like first pedal, first demo, the
Yep.
start of the.
I liked it on Facebook, and he DM'd me straight away. And I was like, oh, do you remember me? We went to school together. And I was like, what the heck?
Right.
What are you doing here?
So he would have seen your very unique name as somebody who's interacted with the post, but when you did that, you didn't know that Bondi Effects was John.
No, I had no idea.
Right.
We connected, and then he drove down to Nashville to give me a Sickas. We caught up for a few hours. Then I went and recorded the first Gangs album with the Sickas.
Right.
So Bondi Effects has been there from like the start of my career.
Right.
And every time he was like prototyping something, he'd send to me, like, every one of Jono's pedals has been on a Gangs record.
That's amazing. And the Sickas takes inspiration from
Yeah,
the,
I think
the
it's
Klon
like-
Centaur, right?
The first Sickas was like 70% a Klon, and I think the latest iteration is maybe 30% of a Klon.
Okay.
Because like he's changed,
Okay.
like he's got, I'd be butchering, explaining what it is, but he's got some like kind of parallel EQ setup going on, rather than like just having some like EQ thing that's pre or post,
Right.
you know, whatever circuit's in it.
And he's on like version 3 now, I think, and in each version the noise floor drops dramatically, so they're like really quiet pedals now.
He spends so much time on noise floor,
Yeah.
like just correcting that, and you know, for good reason. Like, it really does like make a massive difference to just like your own personal satisfaction, but also just like editing stuff. And
Oh yeah, 100%. You don't have all that like excess noise and hum to contend with.
yeah,
Right, so you got one of the first Sickas pedals, and that's been on your board since forever, and you've kind of collected more and more Bondi effects over the years, right?
yeah.
So when you were not touring with Gangs, you would come back to Sydney, but John was still overseas for like a bunch more years, yeah?
Yeah, and then I don't know if I'm the reason, but I'm sure I'm part of the reason. I'm not trying to sound important in his life, and Jono's probably, if he watches this, is like, who's Joji? But anyway, yeah.
Definitely not.
So yeah, Jonathan had, you know, some buds here in Sid to reconnect with, and through being here in Australia, you know, meeting the likes of Lachlan at Earthling Designs, and you know, they've done some really cool stuff together as well.
And they had a recent collaboration, like a new pedal that was at the pedal party.
Yeah, the Preamp EQ, it's awesome.
I didn't get to try it because like the chasebliss table was so busy.
Dang.
But when I returned the gear that the Pedal Empire has kindly lent us in support of this video today, I definitely want to like carve out some time to try that one and some of the other pedals from the other manufacturers that I didn't get a chance to play on that day.
Hell yeah.
So he started building community right here, right? And you were connected to that as well, so that
Yeah.
helped you meet more people.
Yeah, like this whole thing with like pedals and stuff, like I've been very lucky to know someone like Jono, and be very lucky to be even in a position to afford gear. And I just made the habit of anything I believe in, I like to kind of like speak about it and show people and have them believe in it. And sometimes it's not enough to show. Sometimes you got to give people stuff. So I made a habit of that my whole time in Gangs, when like I'd meet people and I'd be like, you should try this pedal, and give them a pedal.
Right, so not just like being not a spokesperson for, but like talking enthusiastically about and making recommendations. You're giving away your own gear to
Yeah.
make sure it got out there because you believed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
that's
just I was
amazing.
like, I really think this would take what you're doing to the next level, and I would do that a lot with my own like other non-Bondi pedals, but also like I really believed in Jono's stuff, and Jono's like someone who keeps to himself a lot, and you know, I don't think necessarily the answer is like we all have to be like marketing geniuses, but
No, certainly
you know,
not.
like,
but when you run a small company, because that's just him and his partner running it, right? Like they don't have a marketing team or a social team, and so you kind of have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
When you're a small company, and some people just want to build amazing gear, and they're almost like allergic to the sell yourself kind of marketing stuff. Yeah.
And I find that like everyone wins, right? When I give someone a pedal, I build relationship with that person. I have lifelong friends with people in bands and in music through doing that. And then if they have a presence or a following, like they post about Jono stuff, and it helps with Jono or whatever pedal company it is, you know?
And I can see how that would help forge friendships, right? Because you're not just giving them like a pair of shoes that you think will look good on them and is the right size. Like you're giving them a tool that they can then use to go on and create music and express themselves creatively through this thing. So now that links you to their creative output as a creative person, and like that's a deep tie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it helps when the gear that I'm gifting is awesome. And that's what's been great like over the last few years, but especially in the last year, you know, Jono just had like this list of stock, and he's not one to really give people like stock for free, not because he's not generous. He's very generous, but just, you know, he doesn't like have the headroom with his margins to be able to do that, much like most effect builders. But I made a list, and he's like, man, you've been, you know, I kind of forged some relationships between the three of us with some acts he really loved. And so we actually like, I told him like, hey dude, here's a list of some of my buds or people that I know are going to be playing in Sydney in the next year. Like, can we hit them all up with gear? And he's like, sure. So like in the last year, just like everyone on that list, we were able to hit and like forge relationships with them.
And are those like names that you would feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah. I mean, like, so like, it's War on Drugs. War on Drugs is more like kind of, I guess, Jono and our friend Liam Keane, whose music you should check out, Meteor Infant. That was kind of more their work, but sent some stuff. Phoebe Bridges, Faye Webster, Mascis was here, so Jono and I went to the sound check.
I was big
interested.
Dinosaur Jr. fan, man.
Well,
that was a good one.
He apparently loved the Del Mar. Like his tech wrote to Jono and was like, Jay was like visibly so pleased with this Del Mar. Wilco were in town. I reached out to Nels. Nels invited me and Lachlan from Earthling to come to soundcheck. And just us and him at soundcheck for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
And, you know, you'll see like the images and maybe some of the videos, and he was losing his mind, like, over the Del Mar. And
Thank you.
I wish I had one at the time to give to him, but I feel like he would have loved the art van. But and forgetting so many names, but like
you gave an art vandalay to Kimgordon.
Kimgordon, I just saw yesterday on her board.
I'll throw up a picture of that too. That's super cool.
And that was crazy. Watching Kim in soundcheck, got to work with her like a few weeks ago, and she really does. She utilizes the Shields blender.
Yeah.
The Kevin Shields signature one so well. Like, incredible. I went and got one not long after working with her, and I tried to do, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, it's...
They're unwieldy,
Yeah. Well, it just, she's got there's a way of playing that only people in sonicyouth can play, and, you know.
Yeah, very innovative at every turn. Right? Yeah. And
another name I should mention, sorry.
Yeah.
Is Ruben Nilsson, Unknown Mortal Orchestra. He posted about the art van, and I know Joel at Chase Bliss has sent him some stuff, and he loves the mood.
Yeah.
But yeah, that for me is like Kim Gordon, Nels Cline, and like and Ruben Nilsson's just crazy.
Right, and it's the pedal link that made that all happen,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. Right, so you also have a role with the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and that's led to some other opportunities as well, right? So do you wanna touch on that? Like, I know we kind of got up to like last year, but where or when did that happen in the timeline?
So that's part of how I got to work with Kim Gordon, and we had like Andre 3000 this year. He has a crazy pedal board.
Is that for the flute?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man. He's got like the Morningstar Matrix looper and like a
Yeah.
microcosm and a whammy, like all this stuff going on.
I love the Morningstar stuff, as you know. Like I've got that ML10X and the MC6 Pro. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So working with the art gallery, like how did you get started in that, and like how did that lead to you building those connections with well-known musicians like Andre 3000?
Through pedals, man. Like I became friends with the head music curator at the gallery through selling him a pedal on Facebook Marketplace. And then we really connected because I sold him like this regen boutique. I can't remember the company, but they made like their own take on the 16-second looper. It's not Manico Labs, the South American one. It's some other company. It's like a black one, and it's like the Electro-Harmonic 16-second looper on Lloyd's.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll figure it out after and put it up on the thing.
And I sold it to him, and he didn't try to talk me down. He was the only one who hit me up. So I'm like, there's like no one who knows about this pedal. So I start asking him, I'm like, who are you and what do you do? How do you know about this pedal? And he told me, he's like, I can't believe like I saw this online. I've been wanting this for so long. They're so hard to get. And so he told me who he was, and yeah, we just kept talking pedals. I met him for lunch like the next day at the gallery, and he's like, let's work together, let's do some stuff. So, you know, and then through doing stuff there, I've met other artists. Like we had Solange the year before.
Yeah, wow.
And a bunch of her band were really interested in pedals and stuff. And, you know, like these are all crazy names that I'm mentioning. But if like, you know, if we boil it down, it's like the link, the access to all these worlds are guitar pedals.
That's amazing.
And so if there's any angry partners out there who are wondering, why is my partner buying pedals?
Why are they eating like 2-minute noodles for a fortnight?
Yeah. It's an access to the elite world. Guitar pedals gets you in higher places.
Yeah, it's like the secret handshake to get you behind the curtain. I mean, it's not. I was gonna say it's not true because that's not been for me. But like working with Pedal Empire and Joel from Chase Bliss for those pedal parties, I got to meet you. I got to meet John from Bondieffects, and that kind of spurred me on to start like making these videos. So you know, I'm not meeting like Nels Cline and
Yet.
Yes. But it's really cool, I guess. Like what I was most astonished by was just how open the community is, because we mentioned in the other video, the online community can be a little bit snarky sometimes, you know, like arguing over things or like whatever. But everybody in person at that event was just like so excited to be there and to be trying brand new stuff, and to have a knowledgeable person at each table to kind of explain everything to them. And like I'd never experienced the community in person like that, aside from a few friends. Like one of my close music friends, Brad, him and I met through. There used to be this online Australian forum called AGGH, like Australian Guitar Gearheads. It's a bit of a ghost town now, but I met him there, and a few other people as well, over like a shared love of gear, and just ended up like loaning things to each other and becoming friends. And like that does forge a friendship in a way that's just different to like how you meet the people you work with, or the people you grow up with, or like you know, any other types of friends. Like music friends who are also nerds for gear, it's just like an instant click, or like it can be. Yeah. And
it's very interesting, like the difference between that physical community, in-person, tangible community, and the online kind of interactions. I feel like online it's it's so much harder. Like you don't get all that personable thing of being able to see why, you know, a pedal costs this much and whatever. And so when people are just seeing a video online and the price, and they're just like, stuff this pedal, stuff this company, you know.
Yeah.
But when you get to be there at something cool like that event.
Yeah, and somebody to show you, like, try this setting, or like they hand you the guitar and you get to try it out. Like that's what the online thing is missing for me, because like real time, you don't have that real time feedback, because most people are just posting up photos, because most people don't have anything better than their iPhone to record them playing with. So even if they film themselves playing, there's not going to be an accurate representation of what that pedal actually sounds like. So you're going off a lot of opinions, like a lot of conflicting opinions, and like we've all spent years like trying to sift through that to find whatever the truth is, like for you, for us. So that in-person connection is really powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the whole in-person thing. It's like you see, like I think it's online it's very easy to feel like, you know, these people are building their empires at the cost of the buyer, but it's when you're in person, you see that it's like a mom and pop shop kind of thing, you know. It's like people might have expanded their companies where it's not out of their garage anymore, but like it's still like the stakes are so high for every release. And having kind of, I think if we were able to kind of champion and promote a more communal thing, and a big part of community is like being able to exchange ideas, exchange gear and stuff. Like I feel like I've been able to, you know, make a lot of headway in my own career and in business through things like that, you know, like I've said before, like when I've met artists and, you know, I've heard their sound or what they're doing, and I've thought like, man, they could really benefit from something I have that I don't really use.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I had that experience where I had this like key to rock or something. It's like a really awesome Japanese brand where they do like Gibson custom shop level kind of excellence on
like build quality
build
level
quality.
at that level?
It's like crazy. I still have one of their acoustics. It's amazing. It's like a J45 style.
Right.
And I wasn't using it as much. And yeah, I just like gifted it to this guy. And he's written some amazing songs as a result of it.
That's so cool.
And yeah, because I mean, I've been sent stuff. Like I've been very lucky to have a friend like Jono, and now like Joel from chasebliss sent me a bunch of stuff, and I just think like I don't hear enough. I know a few, like it's really cool hearing like watching like Noel Gallagher on that pedal show and him talking about Johnny Marr gifted me this.
Right.
You know, Johnny Marr gifted me this, and like heaps of other people, like you hear the Cribs or what's his name from Modest Mouse, you know?
Isaac Brock.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing gear that's appeared on amazing stuff. Like Johnny Marr has bought stuff that was owned, or it has been gifted stuff that were owned. I think he's got something about the Beatles or something. I could be wrong.
Yeah, wow.
Slap me in the face if you see me in person and I got it wrong. But I love this idea. It's kind of like the sisterhood of the traveling pants.
Yeah.
With gear.
Totally. It's like Lenny Kravitz bought the recording console from Abbey Road Studios, and that's like living on with his recordings, right? Like totally different artists, but like undeniable sonic quality there. Or like what's the studio where Dave Grohl bought the big Neve console?
Sound City.
Thank you. Yeah. And like how Dave Grohl bought the old Neve console out of Sound City so it could live on. Like when studios go under, you want to see that stuff go to a place where, or to a person where it's going to continue to live on and inspire.
Totally. Sometimes when studios close down, well, a lot of times it costs more money relocating it You know?
Yeah.
So people just throw them out. Like I've known of a few studios in Australia that
Threw out a large format console.
yeah, man,
Oh,
it's
that
crazy.
hurts.
Like 200 grand consoles and stuff. I won't name them, but like you know, it's really sad. And even on that note, not to make myself sound awesome, but this is a very cool gear story.
All right.
But my old guitar tech was like teching for Fleetwood Mac.
Wow.
And he took me on stage before soundcheck to look through all the gear.
Yeah.
And that was really awesome. And at the time I was recording my own solo stuff and I was looking for a banjo. And he's like, showed me Lindsey Buckingham's old banjo. It's like a Gitanjo, like
Okay.
6-string,
Yeah,
made
yeah.
by Deering. And he's like, we can't get rid of this enough. We're trying to sell it. I was like, I will buy it. They sold it to me for like a fifth of what it was worth.
Wow.
I paid it straight into Stevie Nicks' bank account. Which was then I was made to delete on the spot, so you won't be able to find that on my phone. But like that was crazy. But that was on all my solo stuff, and I brought it back. And so many like Australian bands and artists have borrowed it from me to record.
That's so cool.
You know,
those are really cool because like a banjo has 5 strings, right? So the top string is actually, which is usually your lowest string on the guitar, is actually tuned higher. It's like the highest in pitch out of all 5 strings. So it's just a completely different animal, tuned differently, like different chord shapes. But when it's the Gitanjo, you already know how to play it, right? It's like just dealing with the right hand changes. So it's more accessible in that way.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like, and it feels so cool. My friend Charlie Collins, it's all over her record. The Middle Kids, like, last ARIA award-winning album, that's all over that, you know. I can't even remember who else I've lent it to.
It's really cool as a studio tool, right? Like, I did a cover of a song by The National. I put it up on YouTube like many years ago, where I was playing the main guitar part on the banjo instead, and it just like really changed the character of the song. It was "I Need My Girl" because like it's not like my favorite song on that album, but it's a phenomenal
translates
album.
well on banjo, though, right?
Translates well on banjo. The bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum. And they
What was
had
that again, sorry?
Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum. They had a contest going, and the YouTube world was just absolutely flooded with covers of that song. I can't remember anymore what you would win, if they picked your version, but I had fun doing it. It was like banjo and me singing, and I had like a little toy accordion thing and like shakers and like whatever I had lying around at the time, because I didn't have the studio that I have now. That was like at least 10 years ago. But banjos, man, they're super fun, and like you can get really crazy with them putting through pedals as well. Depending on how you like have a pickup on your banjo, it can get a little unwieldy, or it can make it sound real harsh, but they have potential to be amazing.
I have a whole song which has my banjo going through a Miku pedal, like the chord.
The Korg Miku stomp, yeah. I'm just trying to imagine what that would sound like.
Oh, wild. I mean, I just kind of layered it to sound actually like an accordion.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Just like a really interesting timbre, like this harmonized Ebo accordion kind of thing.
I mean, I'm picturing like sustained notes if you're getting like an accordion like
so I actually
draw.
I did have the Ebo. I borrowed a friend's Ebo on because the Deering has like a banjo pickup.
Yep.
And going through the Miku. So I was just like, but it sounded really cool. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you sound like you've made like tons of connections just through kind of like passing stuff on, right? By engaging with the people that you know that are pedal builders and kind of encouraging them by getting out and spreading the word. But I think as well what I noticed was you're not just like giving stuff away that you have, like whether it's the Bondi effect stuff or some guitar, you're not just giving it away to give it to someone. It's a really considered and personalized choice where you're like specifically, you know, the music they're making I think will be boosted or improved somehow if they use this, so I'm just gonna give it to them. And I think that personal care and attention is why that was more than just like, here, have this random guitar, I don't need it anymore. It's like, here's a thing that I think is right for you. And when you get that right, you like change someone else's life too, right?
Definitely. And I've had my life impacted by pedals. You know, that sounds like a very broad, hectic thing to say, but you know, like sometimes you go through like I couldn't walk for 2 years, right? And so when I had friends who would lend me a guitar and like a small amp and pedals,
Yeah.
I created my own world, you know, and I'm sure so many people out there can relate to that. And that's why I don't like this idea of being like a bedroom guitarist as being,
Like less than?
yeah,
or
less
whatever?
than. It's
Yeah.
like, man, who cares if you're just a bedroom guitarist? Like, sometimes when I was young, that's all I had, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't have access to like therapy and people around me all the time. I was in isolation, right?
Yeah.
And I felt so alone at that point, and having pedals and being able to create sounds that could promote a mood I could not walk myself into unless I created this sonic world for me to
Right.
exist in. And so when I meet someone, I'm not saying like, oh, you look depressed, you need a pedal to help you.
Right.
But sometimes I'm like, this impacted me in this way, and I hope it can do the same for you, you know? And
Yeah, it's like a way to work through whatever like issues or trauma you're dealing with. Like
Yeah.
you're flexing that creative muscle, and I find it's easier when you have a new thing, right? You have a new thing to explore, and it feels like play again instead
Yeah.
of gear that you already know quite well. And like certainly I can identify with using songwriting as a tool to get out what you really need to
Totally.
get out. That's really cool, man. That's such a great story. I'm glad we did this too, because like it was only ever gonna be that other video at the desk. So I'm so thankful that you spent the extra time to just hang out and chat.
Not a
Thank you
problem,
very
man.
much. No, seriously, like thank you for coming, and be sure you check out Chachi's solo work. It's under the name Pei, P-E-I, and yeah, this was great. Come back, hang out anytime. Seriously,
Dude.
you're always welcome. I feel like there's so many more stories we could uncover
Oh,
doing this,
absolutely.
right? And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and hope to see you again soon. Cheers. If you enjoyed this, then please click subscribe so I'm easier to find, or leave me a message in the comments, or follow me on Instagram. And I'm open to recommendations for upcoming videos, or even how to end these things. So if you haven't seen part 1 of my day with Chachi, where we explore a pedal board full of Chase Bliss effects, then click here to watch that one. That was a lot of fun. So be kind to your pedals. Stomp lightly. Cheers.